Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear me all right? Awesome. Welcome, guys. So, first of all, I just wanted to say welcome to Grant. It's Grant's first time. So, again, welcome to the group. Again, like I said to Grant before, but really to anybody who's watching this, don't hesitate to, email me, guys, or send me a private message if you're new. I know it can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but once you get acquainted with stuff, you'll start to see it's pretty easy. It's just a matter of digging through the material and asking questions. So, all right, with that said, guys, let's just get right into it. It's a short week, at least for us in the States, guys. We have Thanksgiving Thursday, but I tend to say this every year. It seems when we're having our Thanksgiving dinner, you Europeans like to mess with us, and the markets can still move. So, again, I wouldn't say don't trade because it's a short week. Just be aware of the fact that when the U.S. session comes Thursday, it's likely a very slow day. Generally is, but that night or the night before can tend to be pretty volatile. I've noticed over the years, and again, I think it's just a way to stick it to us over here while we're stuffing our faces. But anyway, guys, I have a few things I want to start with here. I want to go over the euro yen. Again, I sent out a homework chart yesterday. Hopefully, you guys got it. Again, if you haven't seen the homework charts, again, I basically send out a blank chart to you guys. Ask you a few questions, what you see. Email me back. I have not got to those emails yet. I've been a little bit busy, but I intend to do that tonight or latest tomorrow before the holiday. So again, send me an email back if you haven't seen it. Again, you're going to get the answer now. At least what I'm looking for. Then I want to go over the Euro Canadian because this has been sort of one of the more popular charts to look at, and again, it's one of the few charts that I have on my watch list, and I know a lot of you are short it. I just want to sort of give you my opinion and what I'm looking at, and then I want to go over. Damien had a question on Australia and New Zealand, but again, guys, type your questions in the chat as I go along. Type them out. I'll get to them. I'll get to anything we need to get to, and again, don't be shy to slow me down. As always, you guys know I can get off on a tangent. And start ranting pretty quickly. So again, I sent out a chart yesterday on the euro yen on this pin bar here. So again, I like to send out charts based on some of the emails I get or some of the posts I see on the forums and whatnot. And generally we'll see themes within the week and things I'm looking at. So I'm going to remove this real quick. So I sent out this chart just about this bar here. So it's an interesting one because again, it's not really technically a pin bar. It sort of is a pin bar. Again, this sort of the close is sort of just above the previous week's high here. But again, it's a pin bar. We can call it a pin bar here. And basically, I wanted to go with the theme that we've been speaking about. And again, it's once you find out, okay, here's a chart I'm interested in. Here's a story I'm interested in. You have to determine, how am I going to enter? Am I going to enter on a break, enter on a close, enter on a retracement? And I just thought this was a perfect example of a situation that I already saw a lot of people get into trades that I think that would save them a lot of headache. And again, this was the basic of the homework chart here. So I basically asked you guys, all things considered here, if we were to take this situation, again, I say it, you can take any situation, you should be able to find generally what the best way to approach that situation is what should we do here? Should we enter on a close, enter on a retracement, enter on a break? And again, this is not one I'm taking personally. Again, I would have wanted to see a stronger close, which we can speak about. But I got a lot of interesting emails. Again, I didn't get back to you guys, but I looked over all of them. And a lot of people said to take an entry on a break. But I will say a lot of people said they would enter on the close or at a retracement. So it just shows you that you're going to get a wide variety of opinions on this situation. But let's go through why, in my opinion, it does not make sense. Again, we're basing it on the weekly bar. So let's just keep it simple like that. Don't drop to the daily. Don't drop to the 4 hour. Just keep it on the weekly pin bar here. Why it doesn't make sense to enter on anything but the break of the bar. So if we're looking at this, guys, and you're saying, okay, let's go over basically, let's say we enter on the open. So that would be entering right here when the market opens on Sunday. Again, I'm not even sure, it may have gapped down slightly. But again, if you do that, look at, we're right above the resistance point. So you have to use your story of the chart to your advantage. So I put this 145 in because to me, again, it shows you the key level, the big round number, right? So look what we have. We have resistance right off the 145. Price gets to this area again and kind of just shoots right through it. So there's the only information we have on this chart is generally is this swing point here. So we have this 145 and we have price closing above this area. So if we enter on the open here, what are we doing? What are we doing if we enter on the open here? What's the key here? So if we're selling this pin bar, if we're looking to sell this pin bar, what are we doing if we're entering on the open here? Right. So Damien said we're above the resistance and the big round number. Andrew said we're trading back into the price pivot zone. Mock said same thing. Raven said same thing. So again, guys, this is why you can't think of your charts as, okay, we have a pin bar, price has to go down. You have to think of your charts as why should we go down and how am I going to be able to use that information? Because when I sent out the answer chart about saying the only way I would ever take this trade is by selling a break, I got a lot of emails back saying, well, Mike, what if price turns around now and we could have gotten cheaper? Right? So let's say price, again, I don't know. I'm not I'm not able to, know exactly what's going to happen. But if, let's say price turns right now and comes down. Well, yeah, that's great, right? If you were the one to get in over here. But you have to think about the pain you're going to be taking if you get in this trade and how you're going to be able to manage that situation. So if we sell anywhere above this area, we could just easily be holding a support, right? Somebody could have easily said, I'm going to buy in over here because price is closing above the resistance point. Here's your resistance. Here's your resistance, right? Here's the bounce to confirm it as support with the low of the pin bar. If you get in anywhere over here or on a retracement, you have nothing to hold price down, right? Look at all the space here. Why should price reverse here or reverse here on the open, right? So we really don't have a reason to go and be a seller until the market commits to us that it wants to be selling. So Leo said a great thing here. Couldn't this be a wick play, right? And it really could be. So again, the close for me is a little bit strong. So again, I would have wanted to say it close a little bit higher to know and say, again, it's that same idea of here's price, right? Price moves up, price moves down, it absorbs those sellers. So now where's the path of least resistance? It's away from the resistance point and back up through that wick. So Leo, you're absolutely right. This could easily trickle right back through this bar. And these are the situations that people get themselves into because you see a pin bar or you see that strong selling that happened on Friday and you get so antsy to get into this trade. You're like, all right, well, let me just sell this bar in the open or let me jump in here now and hope it turns around. Again, what did we speak about last week, right? The only time you should be using the word hope is when you're in a risk-free or a low-risk trade. You should not be using the word, I hope price now turns down when you're in a trade like this, right? So if somebody entered right here in the open and they're starting with their stop above the bar, right? What are they saying to themselves right now? I hope price reverses, right? Because what are you going to do with your stop loss? You have to essentially leave your stop loss up here and hope it turns around, right? Maybe, hopefully, it'll turn around here at the 50% retracement of the bar. Hope it turns around as we get towards the top of the resistance where previous sellers come in. And it may, right? It certainly can, guys. And I'm not saying it won't, but I'm saying you have nothing to base that on. There's no information here except for let's just hope price turns around. Whereas, let's say, right? Let's say you said, okay, you know what? I like this pin bar. Whatever, all things considered, let me sell a break of this bar, right? So again, we have three ways to enter trades, guys. Enter on a break of the bar, a retracement, enter on the open. And each has its place depending on the situation. So if we look to sell a break of this bar now, look at how it changes the whole entire situation. Because we're using the confluence of this resistance point, turned to support, confirmed by the big round number, right? And we're saying, I want to be a seller under this area. And that's huge because now if price comes down, right, wherever, let's say it came down right away, comes down now, might not, price comes down under this area, well, triggers our order and what are we then saying? What can we then do? We have multiple options at that point. So at that point we say, well, we want this resistance to hold again. So price should hold here, right? Or it shouldn't. So either this is going to hold again, or it shouldn't. And again, that's the key. You need that information when you take these trades, guys. Otherwise, you're in no man's land. And again, sometimes that can be as simple as, using the left eye, right? So, for example, in this case, the left eye would be lined up here. But look at how price pin bar closed right even above that area. So had price, say, closed lower, right, maybe somewhere down here, well, then you might say, okay, let me get in on a retracement to the left eye. But you have nothing to hold price down except for, well, I hope it reverses. Again, we're using the weekly chart. Don't drop down to lower time frames. Don't do that. It's not needed. But again, you want to trade under these areas. So very simply here, guys, the only way I could ever get into this bar would be a break of this area. So let's say you have a pending order down here, right? Let's say you leave a pending sell stop down there under this area, right? And you put your stop loss above here, and you might just let it sit there now, right? Because you're saying, listen, I don't care when we get under that area. I just want to see that that area is broken, and then I have options to manage my trade. So for example, let's say, guys, now price drops down, right? Let's say it does hold here at some point. Again, I have no idea when that's going to happen. I can't know that without more information. But let's say price then starts to reverse here, right? Comes down, triggers our order. Well, what are our options now? Now we have options to work with. But what are they? Right, so okay, perfect. So Riff said move your stop to the top of the current bar. And let's see, Raven said above current bar, but better for the left eye. So again, what I wanted you guys to realize is at least now we have options, right? So let's say, again, we started with our stop above the bar traditionally, right? You get your position size. Well, if price starts to come straight down now, at the worst case scenario, you can move your stop above the previous high, right? Because let's say price turns right around. Why would you want to leave your stop? Why would you let price come back up and stop you out up here? It makes no sense. Makes no sense. So worst case, maybe you'll let it stop here, which was the last resistance point, right? So price comes down, triggers your order, right? Move your stop from here, move it to here. Again, okay, we've reduced what? A quarter of our risk. Okay, that's something to be excited about. But I would still be watching this area. So although I might immediately move my risk to, say, here, because again, we always want to be proactive moving our risk, right? You don't want to leave any more risk on the table that's needed. You want control of your trades. I would still want to see price hold at this area. Even though this was the last resistance point, this is still the more important area. So even if price triggered my trade, I would still be watching that 145 to hold. And although I might move it to here just to be proactive, I would really be looking to cut out maybe around here if this area doesn't hold on a pullback. And really, this situation for me, does anybody want to guess what would actually be the most interesting for me in this situation? What I would really want to do. So again, I'm not going to sell this pin bar. It's not good enough. I would have wanted a stronger close. If price closed, down under the 145 or stronger, then we'd be speaking about this. But what do you think I might be looking for here for a situation to play? So let's take it a little bit further here because we're going to use that and move to the Euro Canadian in a second. And then Mock, I'm going to get to your statement in a second because that's important too. So what do you guys think what might be the more interesting thing here to look for? Again, I don't see anything wrong with playing a break of this bar if you use the information that way. But what I'm actually would look for, guys, I would really want to see price to close under this area, right? Now that we've confirmed it as resistance to support, if price can close under this area, let's say even, let's say this week doesn't even close, or let's say this week does, right? Let's say this week closes down here, right? A little bearish bar, price closes under here. Some of you might be triggered in, some of you are in from other places. I would then be more interested in putting a sell limit here at this area, right? Because then I can really get a tight stop in here, know that price is closed back under the resistance point. That to me is a more ideal situation, right? That is really a lot of confirmation on a confluenced area of support and resistance. That is what I would be looking for at this point. Again, could you outright sell this pin bar? Yes. Would I ever sell here or here or anywhere up here? No. to me, again, it doesn't make logical sense for how you're going to have control of your stop loss, right? Because if some of you actually looked how this moved this week, we can actually see that price came up, bounced, started to come back down. So, what do? Did you sell here? Did you sell in on the open? Wherever, let's mark where that is. So here's the open. So maybe you sold right on the open, right? And then price, again, comes up, retraces a lot, then starts to move down. So have you now moved your stop loss down over this little pullback? Again, you start to have so many questions about what to do. Whereas if you use the confluence area to your benefit, you're going to know exactly what to do at a particular area. So again, for me, actually, the most interesting thing would be really if we close back under this area. That would be a strong sign that this previous resistance, the most major point on the chart that we have to go by, right, just as this would be sort of the most major support area, would hold back as resistance. Again, I can get in with a tight stop. So that's what I would be looking for. Now, I just wanted to address one more thing here. Again, if we don't have any more questions. And Mock said, I would move my stop loss down to just above 145. So that was in regards to, let's say we sold below the pin bar, right? And price comes down and triggers. And Mock was saying, okay, I'm going to move my stop just above 145. So this is something I was speaking about, I believe it was last week. Again, I think Raven was even asking me. It was about one of my equity trades on LCI. And he thought I might have got stopped out. I think it was you, Serge. And I said, no, you got to give things a little bit of room, right, guys? So don't just move your stop loss right above or below a support and resistance area, right? What you really want to do is let the market test that area. So if this is the important area, right, and price comes down, right? Let's do it this way, right? Let's say price closes under this area this week. Okay, let's say it closes here. Right, so we're saying to ourselves, all right, we want to sell on a pullback to this previous swing point. So let's say we put a sell stop just under 145. Let's say we put it at 144.85 or something. Just that way we don't miss the boat here. You don't want to stick your stop loss, say, right above 145. And with the idea you're saying to yourself, well, Mike says, right, this area should either hold or it shouldn't. Remember, these are still zones, right? So although we're using the 145 to sort of get a better perspective of where price should close in the short term, we must remember that there's still zones. So what I like to do is watch for that pullback to get put in. And that was sort of what I was just saying on the hourly chart here about, okay, if you were watching the price action this week and you got in down here, you would have seen this bar move up, right? And then this bar move back down, creating a little bit of a wick here, which is a pullback. So do you move your stop loss above that pullback? So many times I can be in a trade, and again, let's go back to Australian USD because I'm going to now go into Euro Canadian, where we spoke about this pin bar, right? From a few last week or whatever it was at this point, off this resistance point. And I said to you, a lot of you, okay, if you're going to play that pin bar, you got to get to break even quickly. So price moves down, right? And this bar here that looks like a bullish outside bar now, that was my entry. Price actually originally did bounce here and come down, giving you an opportunity to get to break even if you took the retracement entry, which makes the most sense. So again, you want to see price bounce at your area. You don't, because otherwise you get out too quickly, you get nicked out. You really want to see a swing point put in. So what I'm saying, again, just to be more clear, is let's say price closed down here and I sold over here. You know what, let me zoom in because I feel like I'm not saying this correctly. And it's very important. All right, so let's say again, here's our area we're watching. Let's say this week price closes right here. So we say, okay, you know what, let's sell right here on a slight pullback to the swing point, right? We're selling pullback to the low of the pin bar, a pullback to the 145 big round number, right? We're layering on confluence. We know this is a good area. Don't just stick your stop loss, say, right above 145, because price could easily pull back, maybe even a little bit higher, and then turn down. Wait for price to turn down, right? It doesn't have to turn down to here, but you want to see some sort of swing put in. So if price comes up, wait for some sort of bounce, and then what you can do is stick your stop right above that high. So it's sort of the same idea of, let's say price triggered in somebody on this pin bar and this bar comes down, right? Price puts in a swing high point. You can move your stop loss above that high. You're just doing it at a more confluence, more exact area. So you don't want to get nicked out by putting your stop loss, say, at 145.10. You're right, and then price comes up, triggers your order, triggers your stop loss, then turns down. Remember, these areas are always sort of zones, right? Same thing happened on Australian USD, right? Remember? So here's the bullish outside bar that I got in on, right? So here was that support, right? And then we're going to speak about this again for the Euro Canadian, right? Price breaks down. Some of you were looking to sell this bearish outside bar. Some of you sold in on a break, and we said don't do that, right? Too far away. Price comes up. A lot of you take big losses or full bar losses, not necessary. Some of you got in on a pullback. Price comes down, get to break even, move your stop. Now, likewise, for my bullish outside bar here, right? I entered on the close because we're so close to the support and resistance, but then price pulls back into this area. So we want to use this area. If you stick your stop right up under here, you could have got nicked out here, right? You could get nicked out at one of these points. You don't want to do that. You still want to give yourself a little bit of room. And again, I see some of you doing that, and listen, you're going to be okay because at least you're thinking in that mode of, all right, let me reduce my risk. But give it a little bit of space. You definitely need to give it a little bit of room to, all right, price needs to give me a bounce. Show me that I'm right. Then move your stop loss. Very rarely, if you pick a good confluenced area, is price just going to shoot right back through it. So again, if let's say price closes down here, guys, and I sell in over here, well, listen, I might start with my stop up here or up above the swing that gets put in this week, and then say, all right, listen, I'm looking for that next bounce to move my stop down again, but it could come up here at this high. Very rarely is going to go all the way back up here and stop me out for a full bar. Maybe if it gets to here, we cut out or something like that. So, again, that's just a little bit more advanced stuff, but certainly very, very important. All right, so that was a lot of information. Again, Gran is new, so your head might be spinning right now. Don't worry, we'll get you there. We do a lot of it, easy stuff in the webinars, and we do a mix of, intermediate, advanced stuff. Don't worry about it. It's going to make more sense as you go along. All right, so any questions on that, guys? So I thought that was a really interesting chart. I think this is one of those situations that, a lot of people would get in here on a break, or on the open or on a retracement, and price could easily come back up and, then shoot back down. And they're going, oh, man, this pin bar didn't work. Why didn't this pin bar work? And when you really dissect the chart, there's so much more for us to get from it than just having to jump in because it's a pin bar. And that's okay if you're there. If you're new and you're just, finding your bars and going, oh, here's a bullish outside bar, here's a pin bar, and you're just getting your feet grounded, that's okay. That's normal. But don't just assume because it's a pin bar it has to go down, or, say, oh, here's a pin bar off resistance, let's sell. Price has to come down. Really dig into all those little pieces, and those nuances are what are going to be able to make you create that trade plan that keeps you, again, small losses, and then the winners are going to come. And that's what we've been fixating on the last month or so. And again, I'm starting to see the emails and starting to see some of you integrate that into your trading, and it gets me excited because I think it will make you view trading very, very differently, especially with what we do here. All right, let me catch my breath. That felt like one long run-on sentence for me. All right, so let's go to the Euro Canadian now. Is perfect example, sort of more, very similar. Again, guys, the concepts we use, they don't change that much. And I know Gray and you're new, and it seems overwhelming, but there's not that many things. Again, I always try to tell everybody, you have to learn sort of individual concepts, right? Learn to identify your price action bars, your bullish outside bars, bearish outside bars, pin bars. Learn to identify support and resistance, price pivot zones, trend lines, etc. And those are all pretty easy to do on its own. And then it's just a matter of layering that information for any particular chart. But there's not that many things out there. The price can go up, it can go down, it can consolidate. That's it. There's not that many things. It's those little nuances. So this is, again, another chart that for me has a lot of nuances. So now, how many of you are short this pair? Right? So let's just speak about it really briefly and then dig into it a little bit, right? So here's beautiful support, right, guys? Everybody can see that. This is just picture perfect support, right? Very strong area just above this 1.4. So, those of you who emailed me, posted on the forum saying, Mike, should we be watching this support area for something? Should we be looking at? Absolutely. This is exactly this type of stuff you want to look for, right? Stuff that just hits you in the face. Look at Australian USD, right? When we were back here, price was back here, and we have picture perfect support off the same area, right? Price confirms it again here. Should you be watching this for information? Yes. Now, again, it's what you do with this information that's going to decide if you're going to be able to profit off of this situation, stay out of a bad situation, or, again, get yourself into a position where even if you take a loss, it's going to be very small here. So now there's a few things to consider here. The first thing that was the most important for me is that, and you know what, let me ask you guys, what is it about this support area that we should take note of first? So again, let's pull it back and start with some basic stuff here. Right, Damien, you nailed it. So Damien's been working hard. So notice these support are not perfect, right? So it's a broader zone here. So we're not, a picture perfect support off, say, the big round number of 1.4. And for that, we would need, say, lows that looked like this, right? Perfect line here, another line here, maybe another one here. And we'd say, all right, here's a perfect support and resistance area. This is a general zone, which is fine, right? Here's our zone of support and resistance. Again, you can see more of the clustering a little bit higher. Again, here's that 1.4 holding. Again, my guess is that this was just an option barrier that was holding for a while as price gets real close to it. Again, do we need to know that? No, it's not relevant. It's not important. You can just dissect the chart. I just try to give you guys a little bit more idea of what I think might be going on here. But again, this is a general zone here. So this is not, for me, a breakout type of trade. It's not a breakout pattern. This is an important support area on the chart. And again, I make that distinction because it's very important how you're going to approach a trade when it's a breakout pattern of, a wedge or a perfect box. This is not. This is sort of a very, strong support area that's holding. Here's a move higher holding. So, okay, here comes a potential breakout to the downside. Now, a lot of you said, well, Mike, look at the weekly. We have a bearish outside bar. Shouldn't we short this, right? So what do we have to think about, firstly? So if we're going to play, let's say we're going to look at this weekly bearish outside bar. A lot of you said, Mike, here's a breakout trade. Well, no. What is really the first thing? Exactly. So Leo said it's a swing low. So remember, guys, we want bearish outside bars that swing highs, bullish outside bars that swing lows generally. Or, again, when I look for a bearish outside bar to swing low, I generally want it to be a breakout type of situation here. So, again, if you're going to be the person to short this, well, again, let's also go through that, right? So let's say you see this bearish outside bar. You say, all right, we're breaking this support area. I'm going to sell this bar. Do we want to sell a break of this bar? Do we want to sell a close of this bar? Do we want to sell a retracement of this bar? What makes sense? So this basic thing here will keep you from taking a massive loss that you don't need to. Right, so you're all saying retraces. So now I'm hoping some of you from a month ago might have said, Mike, I would have taken a break of this bar, and now I'm in a 50% drawdown. It just doesn't make sense, right? It makes zero sense to take a sell under this bearish outside bar. Yeah, could you sell it and it just keeps going and flies down? Sure. But this is the scenario that's much more likely to happen, right? Because what is the key area of this chart? What is the most important point of this chart? Is it the low of the bearish outside bar? Right. So you guys are saying it's the bottom of this box here. Right? So we want to trade around that area in this situation, guys. Again, I want you to notice how the euro yen, it makes more sense to take a break because the key area, right, on the euro yen is here. So we want to trade around that area, whether it's being a buyer here, which would be right here, or being a seller under it. Now, for the Euro Canadian, you want to be looking towards this area. Now, you have to figure out, well, what do I want to do with this area here? Now, I don't like this for a sell. I personally think this reminds me a lot of the Australian USD. And that if you're going to sell a retracement of this area, well, that's okay. Again, you might want to look for price to bounce. And it actually did. So again, we spoke about that bounce. So if we look at today, we can see price came up as high as here and as low as here. So let's just mark off that low and then go back to the weekly chart just so you guys can see that. So again, if you took this retracement, you may have entered near these clustering of highs and lows, which it's not quite 1.4, right? There's much more support and resistance around this area. So it really makes more sense to short around basically 1.450, 4050 it looks like, guys. So again, I wouldn't want to sell that big round number. I would want to sell closer to where all that support and resistance is, right? See, if we draw the line a little bit higher, you can see low, cluster of an open and close, multiple lows. So it's just above that area. That's important, right? You really want to nail that area. You want to get as close to there as possible. Again, that's what I would do there. But now notice, if you traded that from a weekly perspective, price would have created a wick down to here. Does everybody understand that? How the low of today, remember we were just speaking about you want to see a swing put in, right? So if you were watching this, and you need to do this, guys, you need to, in my opinion, set alarms or do something, because let's say we started with our stop above the bar, right? Let's say we shorted right around 1.4050, and now price swung all the way down to 39.75. That put in a significant swing. That gives you the opportunity to do stuff. And this is going to separate you guys from taking losing trades that you don't need to, taking break even, or taking winning trades. So if price swung down, so let's say, I'm going to zoom in here, because this is, again, this is a lot of information, but it's really important. So it's a little bit more advanced here. So again, let's say we said, all right, I'm going to sell at 1.04, let's say 443, right? Let's say you want to go a little bit under the 50 area. Again, I wouldn't have sold at 1.4, big round number. The clustering is higher, as we just spoke about. That's important for this, and it's going to be important going forward, so keep that in mind. So let's say you said, all right, I'm going to sell there, right? You nailed it. You basically nailed it. You said, I'm going to start with my stop above the high of this bearish outside bar, and I'm going to look to move my stop down, because price should not have to get above where, guys, right? It shouldn't have to get above this clustering, which is still a zone, right? So maybe price goes to 40.60, right? Maybe it only did get to 40.35. It's still a zone, but we want to be right near the major area of that zone in that case here. So again, let's say you start with your stop above the bearish outside bar. Here's your entry. Price moves down to here. What should you do at that point? Should you leave your stop up here, guys? Right? If you're going to risk, say, 3% over this area, 2%, whatever, should you leave your stop above the bearish outside bar? When price moves all the way back down here, what should we do? Right. So Andrew said we can place it above the current high. So let's say, again, I would say there's two options here, in my opinion. I think getting to break even makes more sense in this situation. Again, because I don't see this as a breakout type situation. I see this as a support area. And again, I prefer to play it long, and we're going to get to that in a bit. But again, I would either get to break even or move your stop above the current bar high. So if we started with our stop here, right, and moved our stop above the current bar high, look at our risk on this trade. So you're either break even, or this is your risk versus your initial risk of this. This is going to be the trader who's going to be okay. The person now who's in here on a retracement, on a break of this bar, on a close, and lets this stop get hit here, right? Let's say now price, trickles around, comes back up, maybe holds the support and hits this person out for full bar loss, is dead in the water. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be break even at best. You'll have a few good winning months, losing months and you're break even at best, or you're a losing trader. You need to react to the situation. So if I had a gun to my head and you said I had to enter this trade, I would have entered there. I would have gone to break even. Worst case, stop above here, but really I don't agree with that. I think when price gets as low as it did today, it's time to get to break even. And if this thing keeps running, it's going to go. In a situation like this, in my opinion, it's going to go. It's not going to need to come up again, come a little bit higher, come back down. I don't see that area like that. So that, for me, is how I would play it to the downside. And I know a lot of you are in it. And I'm going to go back to the daily chart and just get rid of this stuff. So I know a lot of you are in this. And again, it may still hold as resistance, guys, right? It's a very strong area. But again, without more information here, I think you need to be very proactive with your stop loss movement in a situation like this. So if you nailed it on the retrace, great, right? You might have even taken profit in a situation like this, right? Price comes down to the big round number, you jump back out. But, I wouldn't get carried away with it. Don't leave your stop loss up here just hoping, oh, maybe it'll come up to here in reverse. I prefer to play this like the Australian USD. Isn't this basically very similar? Where we don't have a ton of information but a support area, right? Let's pull back up Australian USD, right? So here's the support area, right? Even Australian USD was in a better box, but we don't have a ton of information. So I don't want to sell this bearish outside bar that's already moved far away, right? I'd rather wait till price gets above this area and buy, because to me it's a lot stronger of a situation. Whereas look what happened. This could easily just be a capitulation move to the downside, and price could easily, in the next few days, let's say we close, which is what I'm looking for. I'd love to see, say, tomorrow close somewhere like that, guys. Then what do you think I'm going to do? Again, just like Australian USD, what's there left to do? Right, Riff said it, buy on a retrace. I'll buy right here. I'll buy that same area that a lot of you sold, which is great, right? And I say this, if you find a good location, price usually can go either way at that location. A key location to me really leaves the market open for a move higher or lower. That's generally how you know you're near a really good situation. And it often does both, just as Australian USD did. It moved down, it moved up a little bit. That's usually the key. But I would love to then be a buyer right here. Buy in a pullback. I'd probably start with my stop down here. As soon as price bounces, move it up maybe under this low here now. Again, assuming everything does this. And I'd probably target somewhere around here, sort of the midpoint of this box, which is, again, it's not a perfect box, but very, very good box, right? Here's our support. Turns to almost resistance here, more resistance here. Here's that midpoint of the box. What's a midpoint of every box? Right? We do it every week. It's a price pivot zone. Same as the Australian USD. So I really like a situation like this more to be a buyer than a seller. Again, not that sellers won't come in here, but it's just lacking a little bit of extra information for me that makes me confident to just want to jump in here on a sell. Because what I thought about, and again, I did think about selling this, guys, right? As I think almost anybody should. But the thing that eventually made the decision for me to jump out is that I would have felt the need to either jump out for a small profit or get to break even so quickly based on, say, what today did, and then more likely got stopped out for break even. So I didn't really see the worth in that, because I would have either, again, had to get my stop to break even quickly or taken just a small profit, that it just didn't seem worth that effort for me. I felt like it's just not enough there for me to hold. Whereas, let's say this bar here, maybe let's say we got a bearish outside bar that looked like this, right? And then we could get in on a small retrace, and price hadn't moved past the lows yet, right? We didn't get that burst out, which this was. Well, now we have room to work with for a better sort of breakout of this area. Whereas we blasted through this area, and now price is making a strong retreat higher. That makes me nervous that this is going to happen. So for me, the better potential situation here is if we can buy here. And again, I have no idea. Listen, this could easily hold, guys, and tomorrow drop straight off. It could. It definitely could. But again, it's in the details for me. These details are what give me control of the situation to be able to say, I'm not going to take a big loss here. I have good potential here. I have good protection to do this. I feel more confidence because think about it. If price gets back above an area like this after trying to make a move lower, I mean the odds of price closing here, guys, and then just shooting straight down, I mean it just rarely ever happens. This is such a strong area to turn back into support, just as it's a strong area to hold as resistance, like it did today. But this is the situation that would bother me, right? I don't want to get caught in this, right? Let's say you sold right around where we are today, right? Maybe you even sold the close of yesterday. Well, what do you do now? Do you stick your stop right above this high? Well, it's pretty close. It's not really giving much room. Oh, do we keep our stop a little bit higher? All of a sudden you start to have all these other weird questions, and it becomes uncomfortable. And that's the situation that I feel like this would give me. And again, that's just because of the support being here, price moving a good distance away, and now we're pulling back up to the area. It's Australian USD identical. It's really the same thing, right? Here's our support area. Look at the perfect support. Here's that bearish outside bar. It moves far away from the breakout of this support area, comes even a little bit lower, and now starts to reverse higher. What happens? Price closes back above it. It holds as support. We move to that midpoint of the box, right? Price closes back under it now. Look, it holds as resistance, but now this area is a little bit funky. So I don't want to get caught here. I'd rather wait and see if we can close above it like we did on the Australian USD. It's the same thing. Can you guys see that? It's the same thing. It's really identical. And when you see that, that's when you'll know how you're comfortable. And again, just like Australian USD, right? There was a potential sell here that worked out just fine if you played it smart, right? You played it logical. Where do we enter? We don't enter on the break of that pin bar, right? So if you played this area proper, you could have sold it, bought it, sold it again. Again, I'm not that active, and I like to wait for the, better situation, but this is the same situation as this, guys. So now whether you sell here or you're going to be a buyer like I might be, as long as you play this area right, worst case scenario, you're going to take the smallest of losses, right? So the person who sold that weekly bearish outside bar down here, and again, I'm not putting you down because it's something I would have done, 5 years ago probably, and then waited for the retrace, then move my stop loss. What's just going to happen with your equity curve is you're going to have more swings, right? The variance is going to be higher. When you get to these areas and you're able to either take a small win, a small loss, a break even, you're going to smooth things out. And then the wins will come. And when you take, again, like we did a couple weeks ago, right? I sent out like 5 or 6 trades, and I had a break even, I had a little win, I had a little loss, and then I had a couple wins. That, for me, this is mentally doable. This is much more difficult. I've been there. It's much more difficult to deal with. Again, this might, stop somebody out for a half bar loss, and I'm glad that you would say, all right, let me jump out here. I'll take my half bar loss. That makes me happy enough because at least you're thinking about the situation in a way to, again, cut those losses when you can, but you can apply things much stronger. So for those of you who did sell here, again, I'm not looking for you to say, oh, I got out at break even or I got out for a small profit. If you're holding here, that's okay. But just don't let, yourself get stopped out over here or something. It doesn't make sense. If you take a small loss in this area, a break even, a small win, you did okay. If you take a full loss in an area like this, you're doing something wrong, right? So I'm not looking for those of you who are in this short to say, oh, Mike's only looking for longs, I got to jump out. Because I'm telling you right now, this could definitely hold as resistance still. Until we get back above this area and close above this area, to me, this is resistance, right? But it's those finer details that we just spoke about those are the reasons I'm staying out. Not because I don't think it'll hold as resistance. It did. It absolutely did. It's the finer details that keep me out and look for a situation that I'm comfortable with. So I'm just looking for you guys to make sure that you're protecting yourself in this area. No matter if you're, and again, same thing for me, right? Let's say this holds and then tomorrow we close up here, right? Let's say we close up here tomorrow. I buy back in over here, start with my stop down here. I'm not going to let price come down here. I'm going to do the same thing that you should be doing in this situation. I just feel like the support becomes a lot stronger in those details now, like it did here. You just have a much higher chance, in my opinion, of price really at least making a move back to that midpoint where the strong sell-off occurred. All right. I can catch my breath again. All right. Any questions on that? A lot of information there, I know. But, you know, I think we're getting into some more detailed things that are critical. So, all right. Let me catch up on what you guys wrote here. All right, let me see. So Andrew said without price action. Yes, Andrew, in a case like this, I don't need price action. So, again, I don't touch trade all the time. But when I do, it's a detailed story like this. So, you know, Andrew, we might see this too, right? We could easily see tomorrow pop up again, come all the way back down maybe, and then maybe come back up again and give us a bullish outside bar. So we may or may not get price action here. But I'm just looking for price to get back above this. This is confirmed support, confirmed resistance. A close back up here, I mean, for that not to happen like it did on Australian USD would be very, very rare. All right, let me see. Okay, Leo's got a plan to cut out. That's perfect. All right, so it looks like we're all caught up here. All right. So, again, you know, really interesting charts. And I was just hoping some of you would make the connection between this and the Australian USD. Because we went through this so detailed. So, you know, again, go back to this one and think about the things I said during this and apply it to here. It's identical, right? Remember people were selling this bearish outside bar on a break, getting caught for a half bar loss. Some of you sold on a retrace. Maybe took a little small loss. It's the same situation. And again, that's what I was saying to you, Gran, before is this seems like a whole lot of stuff and your head's probably spinning. But again, it's just a lot of smaller concepts and then we just sort of put them all together. And when you do that, again, that's how you get a trade plan. And, you know, you're going to feel much more in control of what you're doing. All right. All right, so Kyle said, Mike, can you take a look at gold? It looks very similar. Okay, gold is very similar. You know, I didn't even look at gold today, but it's close. It's getting very similar. All right, so here's gold. Let's go to the weekly chart. So again, this is a chart a lot of you have been watching, right? So Kas, you've been looking at this, right? Yeah, so this was one we spoke, I think we spoke about this last couple of weeks too, right? So we had a pin bar, and some of you wanted to buy this pin bar, and I said, again, we don't want to buy into this area. This could easily create selling, which it did. Price moved back down. Now, last week closed above this area. Again, that's a good situation to buy into. I have no problem with that, Kas. Again, I can't buy spot gold, so I've been watching the... let me just pull it up. I've been watching the ETF of gold. And, you know, again, I've just been a little bit of an observer here, but I don't mind that at all, Kas. Honestly, I think buying in here makes perfect sense. You know, maybe stick your stop loss under here. You know, maybe start it here, stick it under here, and, you know, that's a good first target. I don't mind that. You know, honestly, I don't mind it. You know, I think it's good. I might even buy that ETF later. I honestly just forgot to get back to this chart. The ETF looks just very, very similar. I'll show you the line I had marked on my ETF chart. You know what? I might have to even jump into this right when we're done. Let's see. Here's the ETF. Same thing. Right? Here's that support area. We now close back above it. This is a good buying opportunity here. Right around 115. I like it, Kas. I'm with you, buddy. I think I'm going to, you know, before the markets close today, I think that's going to be the good move. I honestly didn't get back to it this week. So, good for you, man. So, Kas, are you in? Okay, great. Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's again, it's same situation, really, right? Same situation. And again, it starts with. So Derek's in. Good for you, buddy. So, but what does it start with, guys? What is the Euro Canadian, Australian USD, gold? What does it all start with, though? So let's just make sure we get to that, because don't just go to any chart that you find a little bit of support and resistance. What is, for me, the starting point for all three of these charts? Right. Right, guys. Obvious levels. Who's not picking out this level as important? Maybe some of you will trade it differently, but dead on, right? So you don't want to just go to any chart and find any old little support area. You know, you want really significant levels. They will give you the best opportunities. And if you can start with that and then apply the stuff we spoke about today, you know, you're probably going to be really shocked at how well you can do. And I really don't think that it's going to be that much more difficult for some of you. If you know, again, look for a really strong area. Look for confluence, a little bit of additional confluence. Sort of read into the chart, right? Don't get trapped into buying this pin bar, right? It's working out. So if you did, great. But do you want to be the person who bought that pin bar here on a break and then had to deal with that pullback? No, you don't. Right? When on demo you might not care, but real money you're going to care. You don't want to deal with that. You know, be the person who says, "All right, I'll wait for price to get above here. Let's buy in here. I'll start with my stop down here. You know, I'm looking for this area to hold. Maybe we have to pull back a little bit more one more time. Okay." You know, that's you're never gonna feel like the market has you by your neck, right? Because you're not gonna have these huge losses. You're just going to be at these really nice areas, and you're just going to be logical about how you use them. That's the hardest part at the end, is just saying, what's the best logical way to get in around this area? All right, guys. So that's gold. That's cool. I got to get back to that. I will post up, as always, guys. I'll post up in my non-FX thread about that. But, you know, I never got back to it that week. So, Kas, I'm glad you brought it up here. I'm just marking it off right now in my watch list. Only thing I'm in, guys, is still that ePay from last week. So V skeptical. The gold has more room to the downside. It might. You know, again, listen, we never know what's going to happen, but it's a nice level here. But at worst case, though, right, guys, we're not taking a big loss here. So again, I'd position size based on this and look to cut out around, say, down here. Worse, because it should start to pop. And again, this is a major trouble area right here. But this could be a major support if this thing gets going here. Some of you might look to hold it. All right, guys. So, oh, Damien, you want to look at Australia and New Zealand, right? I almost forgot about you. Let's pull that up. All right, so Damien, what was your question again? I forget about what you were looking at. Right, so we spoke about this one last week, right, guys? I think that was the day it printed. Look what happened. So, go back to that one. I hadn't got to this chart in a while. No good, right? And we know why. We spoke about it. So, again, go back to last week's, I believe that was, we spoke about. So, Damien, what were you looking at, though, on Australia and New Zealand? Were you looking at the area that we were speaking about last week? Okay, break below. So last week, again, we spoke about, some of you were looking at this resistance point for this pin bar, and I said, listen, I'm skeptical, I don't like it. You know, the only way you can get in here is maybe play a retrace. It had already retraced and broken. I said, that's sketchy, and look what happens, right? It's a headache. Don't get involved. So I said, this is the area I like better. To me, this is more substantial support and resistance area, right? So what I would be looking for, Damien, is don't just start trying to sell right now, right? It looks like it's breaking down here. Don't just try to sell now. You really want to see some confirmation here. So I really want to see price actually stop where it is today, hold, and give us a little bounce, right? It might want to bounce back to here before dropping down. but you want to get a little confirmation. So actually, ideally, right now, Damien, you want this area to hold as support. That's really the ideal, and then we can look for a potential breakout to the downside. Or, again, right, price might come up here, break down, give us no signal, then break back up and hold as support. But definitely a good area. Again, it's a little bit choppier here, but we have this sort of, this is the little bit weird here, right? We have a really strong price pivot zone at this area, right? Resistance, resistance, support, resistance, resistance. This thing makes it a little bit more funky, but I want to see us stall here because, again, what is this area, guys? Is it one direct line? No, it's a zone. So let price show you that zone. So that would be price holding, bouncing, and then if you get, say, oh, maybe we'll get a bearish outside bar in the next few days. Okay, we know what to do. Sell it. So this is a great chart, but it's not quite there yet, right? Don't get antsy. It could just keep dropping. You can't be worried about that stuff. Because then again, you'll get in every little trade and you'll be in a situation like Euro Canadian where you're sold because price looks like it's breaking. Let it, give you a little bit more. So, okay, so Damien said, would you consider a break below and a pullback? Again, I will only if we stall out at this area. I need another confirmation that this is support. This, to me, is not confirmation of this area. Right? That's not, I want it more exact than that. That's where I'm picky. So let's say price just keeps closing down here, right? I'm not going to look to play a pullback to this area, really. I might utilize this area and okay, if we get another story, maybe price forms a bearish flag on the 4-hour or something running into that area like that for a breakout. That I'll look at. But in terms of the daily chart, if this doesn't start to bounce here, and we don't hold in this zone, I'm not going to be as interested in it, right? I want to see confirmation. I'd like to see us move higher first. Then whether we get, a preemptive breakout type bar, right, a bearish outside bar, or then maybe price just breaks down, then I'll look for a pullback. But I want confirmation of my areas, especially before those breakouts. If it just keeps going, it just keeps going. I'm not concerned. Does that make sense, Damien? Cool. All right, guys. So, any last questions here before we wrap up? I know I only went over a handful of pairs. I say it every week, though. Again, it's applicable down the line. All right, so V's got one. So let's check it out. V said, I want to check out the pound USD. I just posted a chart in the intraday thread. So I'm guessing it might be the box on the 4-hour, I believe it was. I was looking at that too. Let me pull that up. Right, here we go. All right, pound USD. So V, were you looking at this here? Again, another box. And I meant to say too, a lot of pairs are consolidating, guys. And V said there's a trend line there too. So let me go to the 4-hour. So V, are you using maybe this guy? Possibly. Yeah, so I don't love this trend line personally. I wouldn't put too much weight into it. Again, not really massive swing points here, right? So again, it might be important, but I think the most important thing is just, listen, it's in a box here. So you might use it as additional confluence, but I don't think it's really necessary in this case. Again, it's definitely trend line. It's there. But I would really be watching just sort of this box, personally. And, maybe the next session we get a breakout here. So, again, same thing, right? This is great. I love that it's holding here. I'd love it to maybe give us a one last ditch move down and bullish outside bar here, guys. That's classic, right? Ain't nothing to think about. So, this is a great chart to watch. Great chart to watch. Now, again, do I want to be short here? No. Me personally, no. Again, it's one of those situations where we got no price action. Maybe you touch traded here. Now price is stalling out at the first trouble area. What do? Well, you better be break even or taking profit. Yes, it could keep going down for sure. But I want some price action, that tip off there. But yes, V, this is a great chart to watch. Again, whether you include the trend line or not, it's up to you. I don't think it's needed in this case. I'd watch this as a box breakout, right? So, maybe either a big failure pin bar and short it to the midpoint, or a bullish outside bar is more ideal, right? That's what we really want here with all this space. We got a first trouble area here and look to get it up here to the major support. But yeah, this is picture perfect chart. I'm guessing this will break out right when I'm eating Thanksgiving dinner. That's my guess. Because that's what you Europeans do. Right when we're passed out. That's what they do. They wait for us to pass out. Alright, so Andrew, and I'm going to end on this here. Andrew said, can we play this as a multiple bar high breakout from the 4 hour? So let's go to the 4 hour. So here's the 4 hour, right? So here's a multi-bar high, 1, 2. So I think we went over this. It was definitely within the last couple months. So why would I not play this as a multi-bar high breakout? Which again, multi-bar high breakouts, guys, go back to the members area, go to the video introduction to multiple bar highs and lows breakout. And that would be playing a pure buy, right? So you guys rarely see me do it except for multi-bar highs or lows where we just put a buy stop above this area. Why would I not want to do this here, right? We have a nice touch, accurate. So why would I not want to do that here? What do we want to see happen to purely buy a breakout? Right, Andrew, see, you got it, bud. You want to see price move away here, right? So you really want a swing point to get put in, or price to move back down away so that you have time for order flow to stack above this area. So I really want to play multi-bar highs or lows where, okay, you have a high, again, you have a bunch of exact highs. Picture those as exact, right? Maybe price runs up into that area, creates those highs, comes back down, maybe comes back to it, stalls one last time, and then you place a buy stop right up there. You get that burst out. So this is just too tight of consolidation that you could either easily see price come up and shoot back down. So we want price action to tip us off here. And again, that's why I'm such a huge fan of price action bars, because you get that last defining quality to give you a heads up where price is going to go here. So yeah, definitely wouldn't play that as a multi-bar high breakout, but I would definitely be watching this right now in the hourly for price action. Definitely. And listen, we might not get it here. It might just start to trickle back down. And then guess what? We have another area to watch. So all I'm doing is just waiting for things to line up. And it might not happen here either. We might not get any good price action, and I'm on to the next one. Right? But we always have something to watch. There's always going to be something. Right? So we have a few good charts right now. Again, a lot of consolidation. A bunch of other pairs. I'm watching some of the yen pairs too. Again, still watching this box here too. Right, nice flipping here. Here's another nice box. If we drop to the hourly, this one's starting to form up nice too. So a lot of consolidation, but when you see consolidation, just look towards the pairs that make a lot of sense, right? That are very accurate. Just like we spoke about. What's the defining quality to start with? Pound USD has that defining quality, right? Very accurate resistance area. Price is giving you good information. Right? It's not just a random swing point. You have something really nice to start to work with. And if you do that, guys, and then you're just logical, I don't know how you're not going to be okay. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but if you do this, there's no way you're going to be a massively losing trader. There's no way. Whether you're a break-even trader or not, probably that's the first step. Obviously, you're not going to just start winning, but then you just make those little adjustments that we spoke about earlier. Should I enter here or enter here? Okay, well, if I enter here, I'm probably going to have a really large drawdown. That's the break-even trader, right? If they're picky with their trades. That's the break-even trader. Then if that person does that and applies it with strict, high-quality entries like this, you're going to win. And if you're taking, whether you take 2 trades this month or 10, if they're all picky in that manner, you're going to show profit. I really... listen, I'm not saying everybody's going to be able to do it, but I don't see how you won't be able to. I truly think that most people get stuck because, again, they're not picky enough, right? They just want to trade all day. So that's the first problem. And then the second problem is they they want too much out of their trade, right? It's like the person who might be short the Euro Canadian right now, right? And okay, so they got in a good entry, and price is starting to creep higher, and they just leave their stop loss here, and they say, I was up $50. What's $50 to me? I want to see price come all the way down to here, and then they get stopped out for a full bar loss. You don't have a chance if you do that. I'm just gonna be brutally honest. If that's what you're trying to do, it's just a hobby to you. Then treat it as a hobby and then just enjoy that. But if you're gonna treat it as a business, you can't do that. Take your small loss, move on, because then you're gonna catch that runner where maybe this does drop down. But you don't need to take those big losses, guys. Keep things. Again, I've been saying it. People always say the cliche, cut your losses, let your winners run. And then nobody really shows you how to do that. This is how you can do that. And if you do that, whether you take 3, 4, 5, even 5 losses, which, man, that never happens. But if you even take that, you're still gonna have such a small drawdown to make up that when you hit those winners, they'll come in and they're just gonna make up for it really easy. And that's what I've been trying to show you guys the last few weeks. Well, for a long time, but I've been specifically trying to show you guys that for the last few weeks because I think if you do that, you guys will find success, and that's what I want to hear about. So I hope I get you guys there. Hope it gives you a little bit of help, guys. So, all right, on that note, we'll wrap today up. Again, appreciate you guys coming and asking questions. Again, you new folks, get in touch with me, and those of you in the U.S. have a really happy Thanksgiving. We all have stuff to be thankful for, even with the ups and downs of everyday life. So, again, definitely thankful for you all, and we'll see you guys next week. I will enjoy that turkey and my beer. All right, guys, have a great one. Thank you.